Hello and welcome. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sarah Davey and I'm Head of Development Services at CHIC, representing Build Smart. Following the success of our webinar that we hosted last year, we have planned a brand new series for 2021, as well as dedicated day of 3 webinars to replace this year's annual conference. This will be hosted by Mark Easton, the BBC Home Editor, and will take place on the 9th of June of this year. Our actual conference has been postponed until 24th of November. We hope this will be a real conference, so please save the date. Each webinar will consist of a series of presentations from our contractor and supply chain partners, as well as member and CHIC representatives. Each webinar will focus on different topical themes. This session is focusing on off-site manufacturing to create future-proof housing stock. Build Smart has recently signed up with 3 new MMC partners: Impact Modular, MAR and Elements Europe. These contracts are for a duration of 15 years with a break clause every 5 years. All 3 offer both modular manufacture and turnkey options. These, coupled with our existing partners Stuart Mill, Premier Modular and Totally Modular, enables Build Smart to offer its members flexible, cost-effective MMC solutions suitable for most site conditions and constraints. A representative from each will join us over the webinar programmes, with Jack Randall of Impact Modular and Simon Horn from Stuart Mill joining us today, together with CHIC's Managing Director, John Fisher. We plan to take questions at the end of the session, so please can you use the question link and make sure that you note who you're directing the question to. Our first speaker is Simon Horn from Stuart Mill. Simon is the Technical Development Manager and joined the company in 2010. Simon has specialised in timber frame design and construction for the past 28 years. He has extensive experience working within architectural private practice, national house builders, architects departments, and specialist timber frame manufacturing companies. His construction knowledge and skills positions him well for providing Stuart Mill with innovative solutions in an ever-changing marketplace, both technically and professionally. Simon, over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to run you through a presentation on Stuart Mill timber systems. Okay, modern methods of construction. So timber frame is a panelised system and sits within the MMC framework definition as a category 2, category 1 being the volumetric and modular stuff. Category 2 covers off timber frame and a panelised solution, which is what we provide from Stuart Mill Timber Systems. But why off-site manufacture? Why would you use off-site manufacture opposed to on-site manufacture? It's to get all those benefits that are displayed on that screen. So a more efficient implementation of a construction project that improves quality because you're manufacturing components off-site, and the on-site phase is more of an assembly phase and the coming together of those components. So therefore, you've got greater control in your processes that are used to deliver that project. You've obviously then got equally all the supporting data and information that's been used to produce that solution, and then those manufactured components that then go to site.
Simon, we can't see your slides at the moment. One of the delegates just asked the question, should we all see slides, and they're not shared yet. If you can't, Curtis might be able to share for you.
Does that come through now, John?
Yeah, we can see that. You just need to do slideshow. And,
yeah, will do.
Okay, thank you.
Apologies, everybody. Okay, so yeah, why off-site manufacture? So more efficient, basically through the implementation program, because you're producing components off-site and then delivering them to site for assembly and installation rather than on-site construction. That's going to deliver quality because of the quality processes that we use within the manufacturing facility. And equally, that's going to deliver a greater process control to the project. And the project and the construction program is paramount because of not eroding costs to the project. So control of the program is key, And that process of off-site manufacture, just in time, delivering components into site, which is very efficient, but then equally maintains that program delivery for the overall construction program. The supporting information, so basically the data to go with everything we produce is verified, and to support that, those components and the solution for the project. So operational manuals, O&M manuals, easily achievable. Everything is produced in a CAD environment. We work on a BIM platform, so not necessarily people will work in BIM, but we adopt the principles of it because it's material control through the manufacturing process. Overall, if a project is planned and designed and delivered as an off-site manufactured project, it will deliver overall costs benefit back to the client and the contractor. If it is a late substitution, you've lost the efficiency of the early engagement, which goes with off-site manufacture. So that's the key, another key requirement, so that you get the benefit through that program in the construction phase, early engagement and understanding of what the solution is that's being applied. It's sustainable, it's a carbon positive solution, and it has a benefit to the climate because we use timber. It's the only renewable structural material that's out there. It grows naturally. We don't treat this lightly. It is a daily communication now in the press about climate change. Our trees are from Scandinavia and are grown in a managed forest. So we partner with a couple of sawmills in Sweden that have access to those forests. The forests are managed. We use 3 species, spruce, pine and fir. And that's because of the climate within which they grow over in Sweden. Is a very stable climate. So you can see in the top right-hand image, the trees grow very true and very straight. So for us, we get the structural capacity down through that timber. The homegrown stuff that is from Scotland and from Yorkshire, it doesn't grow so true. So we can use it for non-structural elements of the timber frame, but not for the structural walls. Carbon storing, and so basically as the tree grows, takes the CO2 emissions out of the atmosphere, is again a key factor at the moment with carbon emissions and trying to get to carbon zero by 2050. By using timber, we're on that journey basically. The trees will take in the carbon, store it within the tree as it grows, and it's there. That's it. It's locked in. It doesn't then release it once the tree is felled. And that felling and milling process is a very efficient, low energy usage process, certainly compared to the production of masonry and steel, which takes about 5 times more energy to produce the same structural capacity. I've said about it's a managed forest, so we're PEFC in our facility, and all the timber, we know where the timber is coming from. Obviously, from our own business point of view, we are ISO 14001 have an environmental policy. So timber, anything we don't use is recycled. 98% of it is, and 85% of cardboard, polythene, etc., and packaging all recycled. But out of a yield of timber that actually comes into us, we use everything except about 3.8% of it at the moment. And that 3.8%, like I say, 98% of that is recycled. So it's a truly carbon positive and sustainable building system and material in that respect. Why timber frame? What we do with it is across the top, and what the benefit of that is across the bottom. So timber is a natural material I've said about, and sustainable, and I've said about the low production in energy and the benefit on the carbon. Timber's a very good insulant in its own right because of the growth rings within the tree. So they're like insulation jackets, basically, as the tree grows, wrapping around themselves. So it's a very good insulating material in its own right compared to steel or concrete. What we do with it is the energy efficiency with the buildings. The studs go in at maximum 600mm centers, followed by insulation, etc. It's easy transportable because it's a panelized system, so it's flat on the backs of vehicles. Flexible because it's lightweight, so you've not got the massive steel and concrete to support and masonry. It's a very quick build. I've touched on programs. So generally for us, it's a 4 to 5 day program for a pair of semi-detached houses or large detached house. It's 4 to 5 days and the building is up and being handed over. And so as I said earlier, if it's planned and delivered, it will be cost effective. That's our manufacturing process. So it's all driven by a CAD/CAM link. We draw in a computer environment. There's no measure twice, cut once in the world of Stuart Milne. It's all driven by a CAD/CAM link or optimizer saws. The machines that actually make the components you can see in the middle photographs are running down the length of the factory. It's an automated moving line. So like the automotive industry, each station does a different task. Similarly, in the world of timber frame automation, each station there is doing a different task. Then it goes out to site. Well, we'll fit insulation, we'll fit windows in, and then it goes out to site for assembly on site. On site, again, I've said about the efficiency of on site and then the construction program. So we start at a foundation, we work up within a 4-sided scaffold. We will load in with a mobile telescopic frame the stacks of panels, and you can just see them on that foundation within that scaffold. And then the guys will install the panels. That's got insulation in it, that panel. It's got the windows in it, you can see, and it's got the battens for the service void all fitted on the inside face direct from the factory. The floor cassettes, again, efficiency, we'll make it as large as we can make it to then transport it. So generally 9.6 meters is the limit for transportation. But we buy the joists 15 meters long. So again, it's very efficient for us to get the best cut of timber from the stack of joists that come in. The wall panel, first floor, then repeats up. It's platform construction in the UK. So ground first, second to the roof, etc. And the ground level erect, again, health and safety benefits of guys working at height is eradicated by using ground level erect. So that roof has been framed on the floor and then lifted in. The quality side of things, being off-site manufactured, is very controlled. We're in a factory environment, so we have all the accreditations to support that with regard to management systems. And then the third-party accreditations for the actual solutions that we are providing. We've got a BOPAS accreditation for our closed panel, so that's a 60-year warranty, deemed as 2 mortgage cycles. The NHBC, we're approved under the NHBC Accept initiative for our off-site closed panel system. So those are the third-party accreditations, give the confidence to customers and end customers that what has been built has been tried and tested and approved. The BBA certification, again, goes with our closed panel system, being that it's a more advanced system. This is modern methods of construction. This isn't the timber frame of old. So as an MMC delivery partner, Stuart Milne will design and engineer a structure, they'll make all the components, they'll then install those components on site and then hand that over to the developer or the contractor for fitting out externally and fitting out internally. We've got our own homes business, so we're as well as Stuart Milne Timber Systems delivering externally to customers, we deliver internally within our group, the Stuart Milne Homes. We've been doing that for 46 years there. That's where it started. Stuart Milne Timber Systems and Stuart Milne Homes started in 1975. We're UK spread, so we're Aberdeen is the head office, but then we've got offices and we call them hub and spokes. So the 2 hubs are Aberdeen and Oxford, and the spokes are, for manufacturing purposes, Grangemouth, Glasgow. And we're looking now at one in the southeast as well, as a smaller manufacturing centre to underpin and support the larger manufacturing centres. But this means we're a local supplier to the building site to support at the front end, basically. Where we sit in the different sectors that we work in, the private sector, the affordable sector, and those third-party bodies that I said earlier that we work with to get our accreditations. So the nationals and the household names you would recognise in the private sector on the left, but then in the affordable sector that we're working with, we're nominated to L&Q. They signed up for a framework to deliver everything using off-site manufacture and a panelised system for a 5-year period. We're in our second year of that 5-year framework with L&Q. But then equally, some of those other providers, including the CHIC organisation that we're here with today, are all recognised off-site manufacturer and Stuart Milne as a partner to deliver a panelised solution to the projects. Equally, there's one consortium that have all joined. This is a real joint up approach to delivering housing to local authorities, housing associations in the county of Hertfordshire. And then this consortium, headed up particularly by Watford Community Housing and Dacorum Borough Council, they've all worked together, shared ideas, shared their thinkings, and we are working with this consortium to deliver projects using a panelised solution. A lot of these sites are brownfield sites because they're council-owned properties that are coming down and then being regenerated. So again, a panelised solution helps for that impact on existing community, that we're not there very long, it gets built very quickly, and then we're back out again. And again, one particular project in Hertfordshire, it's not a brownfield site, it's a Homes England site where the land has been released by Homes England. The delivery partner for this is Countryside Properties, and we supported Countryside Properties with their bid for the project using a panelised system. So it's 445 units, and then there's bottom right-hand corner of that left-hand image is all the apartment blocks, which are all built in masonry because of the size of them. Generally in timber frame, it's medium rise, so currently up to 5 to 6 stories. With the expected change in Part B of the building regulations, that'll come down to a threshold of about 4 stories because of that building height restrictions. But it's a very successful project at the moment in development. We hope to be hitting site later this year with the first units on site for that project. And then just a couple of case studies to finish with in the affordable sector particularly. So Lovell's partnerships, and this shows you some of the diversity and flexibility with the timber frame that you can get. So a very traditional looking project, stone heads, stone sills, GRP chimneys, rendered elevations, mock sash windows, very traditional looking elevations. And then to the more contemporary looking stuff to the right with the Vista Eco Town, you can see the PV on the roof. It was all about the energy of performance. It was deemed an eco town in the true sense. There was an energy centre on site. And then L&Q, I've touched on L&Q, their commitment to off-site manufacturing to deliver units. So their first project that we are well on with is 225 units in Milton Keynes. And then lastly, the one on the right, Crest Nicholson. So again, you can see the flexibility and the diversity there available to the architect. You've got bay windows, you've got composite panels, render, brickwork, etc. So timber frame doesn't have to be very basic 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2 up, 2 down houses. They can be more flexible in their designs. And then lastly, again, I said about the private sector. So up and down the country, Barratt Homes and Taylor Wimpey, standard house types, repeat and repeat. And then they dress it up with render or brickwork. So again, you get that flexibility back in your street scenes and your placemaking. And then a couple of, again, affordable projects, Allen Build, Places for People. It's in Milton Keynes, that project, so it's a very contemporary designed looking elevation and street scene. But then again, more conventional projects, bottom right-hand corner for NG over in Warwick. So again, you can see stone sills and heads on that project there. Just a short video, it's a 1-minute video of our factory. I'm just about up time. So this is our automated process in Witney, Oxfordshire. So that it's a moving production line. So you've got a framing station, that's a floor cassette going into the framing station. This is the start of the wall line where the panel gets framed at the front end. And the operative loads in the material, but the machines do the nailing up. So again, it helps the health and safety, reduces the health and safety risk. It's a much more efficient manufacturing process, driven by the CAD/CAM links I mentioned earlier. We automatically blow in when we get to the insulation station further down the factory, it blows in recycled glass. So this is Canalf's product, recycled glass that they are taking and reblowing back into fibre. That's now in that panel, and then that panel will be sheathed on the outside. again, automatically nailed. Then the guys are just using a staple gun here to staple on the breather paper. And then lastly, they'll fit in the windows down within the depth of the panel, and we will go off to sites where it will be installed out on site. So thank you very much, everybody. That gives you a brief snippet into Stuart Mill Timber System using a panelised system to build developments like you can see on the screen there for sanctuary housing. So those house types, there's a bungalow on the right-hand side, you can just see, and then you've got house types repeating. So you've got the same house type in different styles, basically used around the site, dressed up with brick or render. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Simon. That was very interesting, very informative. Thank you very much. Okay, now to Jack. Jack Randall is Chief Operations Officer at Impact Modular. He's based in Peterborough in their 110,000 square foot facility, which delivers modular housing for private and public sectors. Jack has 20 years of extensive experience in construction and MMC, and has enabled him to effectively lead the Impact Modular team in designing, consulting and building quality, safe and exemplary housing units for Impact Modular clients. His dedication to the sector is driven by his passion for prop tech, to have an active contribution in addressing the UK's housing crisis. Jack is fully committed to developing net zero housing and exploring new technologies to achieve green innovation through design and build. Prior to joining Impact Modular, Jack owned and managed a specialist restoration and construction company. His ambition and drive to make a positive impact on the world align perfectly with Impact's core values. Achieving the UK's net zero carbon ambition by 2050 can only be attained by breaking old industry habits, sourcing and curating new innovative practices. Jack's ambition to transform and improve the delivery of housing is a representation of the group's mission. Jack?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jack Randall, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Impact Modular. And now we're one of the appointed companies to the Build Smart framework. So this is a statement from our chairman, Robert Whitten. Our purpose is to be part of a forward-thinking global solution which tackles the great emergencies of our time: climate change, housing, and public health in the development and construction sectors. Impact Modular is part of the Impact Capital Group, which was founded by Robert Whitten. The company is formerly known as Lesco and has been established for 3 years now. We're backed by a family office and some financial institutions who have committed over 100 million to support our cause. We've got offices all around the UK, but our headquarters in the heart of London and our manufacturing facilities in Peterborough. We've got a pipeline of contracts with Impact Capital, housing associations, local authorities and private developers, totaling over £1 billion. Our group structure is quite unique and covers the whole life cycle of a real estate project. We want to change the way we design, build and inhabit and manage our built environment. We procure land through Impact Developments. We construct through Impact Modular. We innovate through Impact Smart Homes. We provide finance to external customers through Impact Lending, who loan to sustainable developers. We also own office space through Impact Offices and manage those spaces through Impact Working. So we have a highly experienced team with a diverse background from the automotive, aerospace, construction and MMC industries. I felt really pulling these people together was what the industry needed. We've recruited some of the top minds in the business and take on trainees from colleges and universities. We also have a number of schemes set up, one being recruiting from the armed forces. We think the best way to predict the future is to look at our past. COVID's created a worldwide economic downturn and exposed the vulnerabilities in our industry. It is time for change, and it's our responsibility to begin a green industrial revolution. Our inspiration as an organisation is to address the great emergencies of our time. Our business model is tailored to make an impact on the world through our values. The built environment is one of the biggest polluters in the world and creates huge loss of wildlife. We're addressing these issues through what we do. The way we recruit, design, and build our developments, we create socially cohesive environments. Safety and well-being is utmost importance to us, and that's why I employ a dedicated team to ensure this compliance. Diversity is a fundamental factor in property development. Residents of more ethnically diverse neighbourhoods record much higher levels of social cohesion. We found reports that 94% of residents in buildings with dangerous cladding report feelings of anxiety, and 1 in 5 suicidal thoughts. It is absolutely unacceptable for people to feel unsafe in their own homes. During the pandemic, there was a 33% increase in rough sleepers recorded in London alone. As a wealthy country, we should not have the levels of homelessness that we're seeing. So some of our sites include transitional housing to aid the reduction in rough sleepers, and we're also determined to address the housing crisis through what we do. The construction industry accounts for an incredible 36% of worldwide energy usage and 40% of CO2 emissions. It's all in our power to reduce the damage that we've already caused to our planet, and we have the technology and the know-how to reduce this greatly. What if the future of housing was better, with improved quality through precision engineering? What if it was greener, a 67% reduction in energy consumption during the construction period? What if it was faster, a 30 to 50% reduction in project timescales? What if it was smarter, using smart technology to monitor and control homes? What if it was safer? Social distancing is far better controlled in a factory. What if it was more economical, the value for money throughout the whole life cycle of the project? The future of construction is modular, and we build all of our homes in our first-class 110,000 square foot facility in Peterborough. We're ISO accredited, and we've also got a BOPAS, so we can ensure quality, health and safety, and a minimal environmental impact. We bring project certainty, higher quality, lower cost and faster delivery through our supply chain, logistics, digital design, parametric modelling and factory precision engineering. Impact is a purpose-driven organisation, and we're committed to a transition to net zero carbon built environment in the UK and to ending fuel poverty. The government is relying on us to be the innovators and help bring the green recovery to life. MMC can provide up to 67% reduction in energy consumption during construction compared to traditional methods. So sustainability is our top priority, and we require a supply chain to conform to our strict criteria. This applies to procurement, it applies to manufacturing, it applies to transport, construction, and also waste. A single act has had a detrimental effect on the world as we know it, changing it forever. It really just goes to show how delicate the world is and how quickly it can change if we're not paying attention to our actions. Post-COVID-19, the construction industry will never be the same again. Social distancing is far more effective in a factory, and to date we've had no spread of infections. Now to design. So we have an internal design team that are actively involved in every single project that we do. We also act as advisors to our external clients and provide support for planning submissions and detailed designing. We offer that full design service. So we offer technical design, we offer energy modelling, M&E design, parametric optimization of sites, and digital client engagement. We've created a design book providing standardised housing range, and we've developed cost-effective solutions for the housing associations, local authorities and developers that we've been working with. But we also really enjoy working with clients to design their own standardised models. We continue to work with like-minded organisations to deliver those sustainable homes for the future. And we've worked with the likes of Bristol City Council, the YMCA and the NHS. Our most recent project that we'd completed is over in Bristol, providing traditional housing for the most vulnerable in our society. Bristol City Council and the YMCA needed an innovative solution to provide move-on accommodation to young people who were on low income and making their first steps into independent living. We built 11 homes, which are all now occupied, 2 of which house community builders whose roles are to bring together the residents and encourage participation in the wider community. The units are designed to be carbon neutral and generate all of the energy they need. The team at Impact Modular was so excited to be part of this good cause and allowing the residents to move in far quicker than the traditional build. I'd heard a really good story back from one of my project managers. He'd noticed one of the new residents were taking pictures of their bins, and he said, what are you up to? And he said the new resident has said that they'd always dreamed of having their own bins and being able to put them out every week. And it's just those sort of things that you know, we all take for granted, and probably a bit of a bother putting the bins out, but you know, it's hugely important to some people. So it's all of our responsibility to make a change. So what impact will you make? And we're really excited to be part of this framework and looking forward to working with everyone so we can make a positive change to the industry. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jack. That was great. Thank you very much. Finally, on to John, Managing Director of CHIC. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Sarah. Morning, everybody. Let's get the technology to work, I hope. Can you see the slides, Sarah? Can you just confirm?
Yes, can.
Right, let's get the that's better. Right, sorry about that. So, morning, folks. My job is just to tell you a little bit about CHIC's Build Smart journey, really, so far, what we're trying to achieve, and how what Simon and Jack have kindly talked about fits into what, as a consortium of principally housing providers, we're trying to do. The photograph on the slide in front of you was a show house, which I'll come back to a little bit later, but that was at the Institute of Housing Conference in Manchester in 2018, when people were allowed to meet. And it was CHIC's effectively launch into MMC housing as a consortium. So to that point, we very successfully worked with a range of organisations, working collaboratively, procuring stuff around asset management and legal services. So the launch into new build, which had taken place over the 2 or 3 years prior to that, was the sort of statement of a show house. And I'll come back and talk about that just in a moment. But the principle of what we were trying to provide is picked up by this slide, really. If you look at volume house builders, and on Simon's slides, he had names like Barratt's and Bellways, they're producing significant numbers of homes with a very limited number of house types. So the repetition and standardization is great. You saw from the photographs on both Jack's and Simon's slides that the variety of finishes changes significantly, but the core product is essentially the same. And within the social housing sector, the affordable housing sector, we tend to have a lot more variation and variety, certainly in how they're finished, but also in process and design. And it's no great surprise that it costs us somewhere between 15 and 20% more to produce housing, because there's so much bespoke. So if you look at the 2 cars at the bottom, what we really need is a lot of the ones on the bottom left. And they could be different colours, they could have different wheels on, but we want to try and bespoke everything like the one on the bottom right, and it does cost us more. So very simplistically, what we were trying to do with Build Smart was to get our members of CHIC together and collaborate by working together to achieve some standardization, work with a limited number of particularly manufacturing and contracting partners, and together drive some of that standardization and efficiency. What this slide shows, bit complicated, but if you look at the right-hand side, the difference between the light green and the orange and dark green is the net saving that we've achieved on the standard basket of goods. So this is materials supply that we valued and priced when CHIC was launched now 10 years ago, nearly 11 years ago. And because we've seen growth of members and usage, our relationship with the supply chain has just become more efficient for them and for us, and particularly for our members, and therefore our prices that are passed on to the end user. And everybody gains here. There's more volume going through for manufacturers, but there's a price gain for members. It's basically trying to take, for Build Smart, those principles and apply them to new build housing. The business case, both Simon and Jack have talked about already, so I won't dwell on too much of this because it's about efficiency. It's certainly about less carbon, standardization. But if we just look at two major benefits I want to pick up, one is the impact on the neighbourhood. A lot of the housing that we build, I think Simon said that his sites in Hertfordshire are all brownfield. That means by default that you're building homes next to other people's homes. If we can cut the site time and disruption down for existing residents and neighbours, then that's got a significant benefit, and that's one, to me, of the great benefits of MMC. The other one is about what happens after practical completion. The development world suffers badly from post-completion defects, and particularly customers suffer badly from that. The ability to develop housing in an organised and properly structured and controlled manufacturing process significantly cuts defects, and therefore for both of those the benefit is the resident, existing residents with construction next to them, and the new residents of the new homes who have a defect-free existence in their first months and years in homes. So the CHIC solution, this was launched back in 2016, was that we'd have a CHIC member engaging with a main management contractor, so an ordinary design and build contractor that you all work with on a regular basis, who could either build brick and block. We can't get the big lorries and cranes to some sites. There will still be brick and block housing, matter of fact, and then but could also work with off-site manufacturers. So that could be a timber frame and panel solution, it could be a full MMC solution, and we wanted to explore what those opportunities were, but all potentially supplied by CHIC materials, because we know we can achieve savings of £2,000 to £3,000 per property based upon our purchasing capability through collaboration. So that's what we set out with in 2016. The procurement process we went through initially procured two partners. Simon's organisation, which is a 15-year, a 5+5+5 contract. So we went for contracts because we recognised this was about long-term relationships. And we also procured an MMC contract with Premier Modular Limited. Since then, we've provided an interim contract. We needed to have some choice and flexibility for some members with a company called Totally Modular. So that gave us three contract opportunities. But what we did was went back and looked at what worked and what didn't and how it worked. Sorry, flipped a slide there. Our show house, we wanted to learn what people wanted and why. So the house that you saw in Manchester on the slide at the beginning is now hosted by Community Housing Group in Kidderminster, and it is there and available for folks to go and look at. And if you want to, please contact Sarah. And the picture in the middle at the top is one of the bedrooms upstairs where the construction detail can be seen. So panels in the floor and walls and ceiling and so on will be left off, so you can actually go and have a look at it. But you can see on the one on the left that we've applied different finishes. Some people like the hardy plank contemporary, which the show house was in, but we've also shown how it could work with brick slips or with render. or as this slide and the next one show, a scheme. This was built by Premier Modular, working with Harper's, is a scheme, a small scheme in Staverton for rooftop. And this is a fully modular scheme, but the cladding, both render and brick, was carried out on site. You can see the modules there being put in place. And there's the finished product, again, fairly traditional in terms of approach. And as most people will say when they look at it, you wouldn't know it's built through MMC. So what did we learn and where have we moved this on to? Both Simon and Jack talked about process. Process is critical. The process that we tend to adopt in social housing is not particularly efficient for a manufactured solution. Design is critical, standardization is helpful. So getting the manufacturer engaged at the beginning of the process is really, really important. And that means we have to think about process differently. Price is still a problem, or perceived as a problem, partly because people want to do little schemes. Little schemes aren't particularly efficient, particularly if they've got bespoke design going through a factory. The support network doesn't really understand the full cost of development as opposed to just the cost per square metre. Certainly issues between main contractors and manufacturers. It's, you know, we're trying to develop new relationships in a sector that's always worked in the way it has. The presumption that every single scheme must go to tender is something that, in our opinion, has to change. Why must it change? Because long-term relationships develop learning from one scheme to another. So again, back to process, we have to think differently. But it certainly did not change our original presumption that if we can achieve volume and standardization, that will achieve efficiency. So when we went back to the market to add to the Build Smart offer in 2020, we added a new ingredient, which was the ability to have turnkey contractors. So our new additional contracts, these are not replacements, these are additional to the three I've shown you, are for a turnkey solution. So, for example, Jack's organisation can manufacture for CHIC's members, but it can also construct, so it can do the site-based work. So turnkey is manufacturing and contracting. We've also included medium and high-rise options. One of the partners is already building up over 20 stories on some PRS schemes in London, and I'll show you an example of that very briefly in a sec. What surprised us probably most was when we went to the market from a procurement point of view, there were the level of interest has grown probably tenfold between 2016 and 2020. The amount of interest and focus on the market is huge. There's still really limited engagement. It's now the client side that needs to change. Now, lots of organizations want their own factory. As both Jack and Simon have shown, the factories are established, they're operational, and they're efficient. We need to use the maximum factory space that exists with the skills there that exist, rather than everybody assume that we must build our own. So the outcome was a new procurement process for 3 new partners: Impact, so Jack's organisation, MAR, Offsite, and Elements Europe. So 3 different companies with complementary, in some cases slightly different in others, offerings. Again, 15-year 5+5+5 contracts, all available now, and all available for both manufacture and turnkey solutions. From a member point of view, a CHIC member point of view, what does this bring? Well, it brings public contract regulation compliance, what we used to call ODU until the end of last year. The procurement has been done in a fully compliant way and provides options for different standard house types. So our standard house types, or the manufacturer's own, or indeed potentially your own, but also cost-based information, which enables a scheme cost to be put together from a tendered solution. So having to re-tender is not necessarily required. Building up with any of our partners a priced solution for a particular scheme is now an option. And in terms of price, this just looks at the 3 outcomes from the 2020 process. and we've picked on a particular scheme. So this would vary if we had a different type or size of scheme. But the left-hand column, the mustard coloured bit is the construction cost, and the green coloured bit is the on cost. What we must look at in MMC solutions is the total cost, including on costs. On costs come down, although in some cases the construction costs may go up. And we strongly believe that all of our partners can deliver cost-effective solutions, provided we adopt the principles of early engagement, manufacturer engagement, design, standardization, etc. But the cost issue is something which A, must be addressed, but B, will be addressed and will come down in terms of output costs as we're able to build volume across organizations like CHIC. There's hidden value as well. My colleagues have talked about carbon. The foundations are more simple. I've talked about neighborhood disruption and less defects, but particularly that lower running costs, for examples like the Vista one that Simon showed us, are really, really important. CHIC standard house types, we've got a fair range, but as you might expect, they've been designed to be efficient in manufacturing terms and to meet all the required current standards, and to be able to be transportable to a site for construction. There is the latest version of the show house, which I've shown you a couple of pictures of already. The internal layout's been value engineered since, but the basic footprint is the same. It can be developed in 2, or if you want to go 2.5 story, 3 modules per house. I talked about high rise. Elements Europe within their offer can do medium and high rise. So again, we've got some standard flat type designs. This was a scheme we used for the tender, 125 flats in what would be a fairly dense scheme. And interestingly, Elements are also able to offer room pods as well. So it could be a more traditional construction, but with room pods being inserted. And just to finish, we've got quite a range of offers within CHIC, but we still find a fair amount of resistance in the market from organisations willing to embrace MMC. So there is, as we know in housing, a bit of prejudice against it. There's mistrust of cost around mortgageability and so on and so forth. Government have asked MHCLG to try and engage the sector in what they call the standardisation agenda, or I've renamed the standardisation agenda. And I went to a session chaired by MHCLG last week with people active in the sector. And the bullet points are the headlines that came out of that, the things we still need to address. And that's for organisations like CHIC with its members to do so. So behavioural change, we have to look at how we do things, accept that MMC is the future, not just an irritant. Process has got to change so we can get manufacturers in right at the beginning of the process. The assurances, particularly on Simon's slides, he had a number of organisations they work with, but some of them think slightly differently. Trying to get them aligned would make manufacturers' lives somewhat easier and end users' lives easier. Similarly, regulation on issues like cladding, let's be very specific about what we can and can't use. But standard doesn't mean it has to be exactly the same. The core can be consistent and efficient, but how it's finished can be down to local design with different finishes. And Simon's photos and Jack's photos showed the sort of variety that's possible. We need to make sure that the manufacturer engages with contractors and that we get that synergy to work, and we complete that synergy both through skills development and through the supply chain, so engagement of material suppliers. So all back to where I started, really, collaboration and aggregation are the way forward for CHIC and its members, and particularly for its partners in MMC, and that's the same for the sector. So we look forward to working with you on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Very interesting. So now we've got a few minutes remaining for any questions. Don't have any at the moment coming through, but I've got one that came up when I did a presentation last week, someone asked, and this is both to Simon and Jack, is there any issue with people getting household insurance on the finished MMC product? Obviously, we've covered warranties, NHBC. It's a question that
I've not personally experienced that. No, Simon, have you?
No, it's off-site manufactured using timber frame or light gauge steel, volumetric. It's a recognised form of construction now. It's not. It used to be termed as a specialist form of construction, and so yeah, certainly insurance bodies, mortgage providers would shy away from it to a degree, or they put caveats on providing that home insurance and that mortgageability or finance provision. There'd be a premium to pay, but not now. We're seeing that come down. Equally, that's backed up by RICS. RICS are approving of off-site manufactured systems with those third-party accreditations in place, I hasten to add. So it's about providing the confidence and the assurity in the process and the product. There's a couple of government initiatives out there, one that used to be referred to as design versus actual build. So again, Jack and I are on the same page with regard to the testing and the monitoring side of it, so that you know you're going to deliver the performance that was intended at the design stage, that the on-site construction and then the occupation phase also delivers. So it's about delivering that quality and that assurance, so that mortgage providers and insurance bodies have got the information that they need to provide their services. So like I say, RICS fully complimentary of it now, and we're not seeing any resistance to it. No.
I think there's a real step change, isn't there, especially the last year, and there's a realisation of the higher quality builds coming out of factories where that may not have been thought of before. So yes, I think certainly from the insurance company's point of view, they are backing it in a big way, and yeah, they see probably less risk actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so just to finish on that, Sarah, and following on what Jack's saying, and everybody on the call. So you're building control services that are out there. So NHBC, LABC, and then independent ones like Premier Guarantee. None of them have any concerns about site manufacture from a construction process. And ultimately, that's what the insurance body's providing an insurance against, is that built home. And then equally the finances on that built home and the longevity of that built home. So the BOPAS accreditation, like I said in my presentation, that's a 60-year assurance, deemed as that 2 mortgage cycles. So no, Sarah, we're not seeing any resistance to it at the moment.
BOPAS also offer a 100-year guarantee as well, don't they? So that just sort of proves the commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you both for that. This one, I think I'm going to aim this at John. Which stakeholders are the largest blockers to the sector embracing modular construction, and how do we bring them on board? John?
Thanks, Sarah. Morning, Steve. Thank you for the question. There's a few, but I'd start by saying that other sectors have overcome that, sometimes by fairly overt leadership by government, particularly health and education, have embraced MMC, and lots of construction takes place that way. So the relationship with contractors must work, because it does in other sectors. And certainly sectors like hotels and so on have embraced MMC very successfully. So again, working with contractors, that works. What we've seen, we've made nothing like the progress I would have hoped over the last 3 or 4 years with CHIC Build Smart. One of them's been employers agents. This is different, and it's a bit frightening if you've always done it the way you've always done it. And they're very close to the member organisations, and they're able to say, actually, we can get you a better deal by doing a D&B tender. We can get it a few pounds a square metre cheaper. So we've definitely seen that as a constraint. Secondly is clients changing the way we do things. When we set out on CHIC, over 10 years ago with asset managers was difficult. It was hard work, but people gradually worked together and collaborated. We've now got the same issue to do with members, but we need bold leadership within housing organisations to say, no, this is the future and we need to embrace schemes and deal with it. And the third is the one that Simon and Jack have just been talking about, a perception that that mortgageability is a problem. I had an email last week from a member saying, my lawyers have told me MMC can't get mortgages, full stop. No evidence, their lawyers have just told them that, and that had panicked them. So let's have the evidence, let's work through it. So I think at the core, clients, member organisations, the developers of new housing have to take a lead and have to accept there will be skeptics along the way that they have to take on that journey with them. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Another question aimed at both Jack and Simon. What are you both doing to change RP's attitudes to this method of construction?
With certainly from our point of view, I'll go first, Jack. At Stuart Mill Timber Systems, you hear the word about engagement. You've heard it several times today, and that's particularly being off-site manufacturer. It's about early engagement, but it's just about engagement per se. You know, a word that is overplayed in our sector at the moment and certainly under-delivered is collaboration. But collaboration, again, John's just said about breaking down the barriers. Collaboration, so the question came in from Maggie at Puna. Maggie, it's about collaboration and it is about engagement, because what we do with some of the registered providers that we're working with is we bring them into our facility so they can see the process, they can see what's involved, and they can effectively follow it from cradle to grave, because then we'll also take them to site, we'll show them the site construction phase, we'll take them around finished units. One of the icons I had on my slide on the quality page was about the third-party engagement then for market research and feedback, because we want to know what customers do think so that we can address that. So it's about engagement, Maggie, to change attitudes and give demonstration that is quantifiable and demonstratable with evidence-based information rather than conceptual stuff. Hopefully that answers your question from our side. I'll let Jack do it from his.
I mirror that. I think it's about a partnership. It's about developing a product that suits both parties and that early engagement. We're just getting into a major deal with an RP, and we brought them the site. We have designed the homes around their specification and pulling all that together and making it very simple and straightforward. And like I said, Simon, bringing guys to the factory to have a look around, being part of the design team, being part of the whole process. And it's, I think that's been so useful for them to understand, how the entire process, because if you don't understand it, it can be quite tricky to get your head around. But actually it's very, very straightforward. For our point of view, it's a load of rectangular boxes, and they're built in a factory, delivered to site very quickly, and again it's allowing residents to move in far quicker than it would be traditionally.
Thanks, Jack. Question from Tom, again for both of you. I think, what's the future of OSM, new projects, etc.?
So for me, I think we're exploring lots of different technology. We also build in CLT, which is cross-laminated timber. So we're obviously looking at the net zero housing, but also in the embodied carbon as well. So it's similar to Simon in the production of the material is very low carbon. So for us, it's about driving that forward, and we want to flip, and we want people to actually go out and want to buy a modular home, because that because they understand that's higher quality, and it's changing that thought process that we're building in a factory, but actually that's far far higher quality. You know, it's not getting rained on, the stuff's not getting trodden on, it's not freezing. You know, everything is far better. So I think just really enlightening people and getting people to understand the full benefits. But from a product point of view, we're constantly innovating. I mean, we've got a huge R&D budget each year that we look at how we can control and monitor and manage the buildings through smart technology. We're looking at various different ways we can engineer the buildings so they're a little more interesting. You know, we're working on projects at the moment where we've got a house that sort of cantilevers off one another, which is quite a challenge for the structural engineers. But you know, it's about constantly moving forward and every day constantly improving.
For us, it's because again, I touched on earlier, we're a panelized solution, so we have external wall systems that again, because I'm going to also link this into a question that David Nichols has posted.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, about the air permeability. So we have a range of building systems and fabric solutions. With regard to where that range is going, it is going with regard to trying to get the same performance without the wall getting thicker, because all you're doing is putting more insulation into the wall. We're trying to look at other products and other ways of building the same performance within the same footprint, so that the fabric is just not getting thicker and thicker and thicker. And what David's question was on, thank you, David, was about the expected air permeability versus building regulations requirements for ventilation and heat loss for part F and part L. So yes, the air permeability is inherently of a better performance because it's off-site manufactured and it's the on-site installation. So it's the coming together of the components. So the junctions are very tight and are very airtight. They're tight in their structural connection and then they're airtight in their air leakage, David. So looking at the ventilation strategy is certainly something we address at the design development, back to that early engagement. We look at overheating analysis and whether there is going to be a need for an MEV system without going all the way to a full-blown MVHR system, looking at an MEV system that's flowing in the background so that you're still bringing in fresh air as a continuous flow, but without the full mechanical ventilation heat recovery system. So looking at comfort and overheating, because the air permeability is going to be lower, we can easily achieve the 3s and 4s. If we're going to go down lower than the 3, we instigate that conversation about overheat, because we don't want the opposite effect. As we get warmer summers and wetter winters, there is going to be that challenge to overheat comfort control for homeowners.
I think it's definitely a delicate balance, isn't there? Because some of our units we got below 1, but the technology that you need to put in there was very costly to be able to pull the air out and circulate it. So it is a delicate balance, and there's a lot of modelling and testing that needs to be done.
And I think it's key to say as well, as we were discussing earlier before the presentation, before the session, that you are constantly monitoring. So Jack, your scheme in Bristol, you're still monitoring that to make sure that you're achieving what you've said you were going to achieve.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, the smart metering that's available now as well, that is becoming more and more common to be put into place. So if you've got a BMW as your car on your drive, do you drive it like a BMW or do you drive it like a Vauxhall Astra? Because we've got the properties that will deliver the performance, but how are then homeowners using them? So the smart metering equally that's being put into some projects, the Bicester Eco Town was all smart monitoring and smart metering. So we've been collecting that data year on year since to find out how homeowners are actually using the properties and what efficiencies and energy costs they're getting back out of the property. So that's key. And the site that I had on the screen for Hemel Hempstead, the Homes England site, that's a full monitoring site. And that's a full monitoring site, not for the end phase occupation, but actually for all the during design development, construction phase and delivery on site. It's being monitored for all of that as well, so that we can, then you've got that measure of on-site efficiency of off-site manufacture versus traditional masonry construction.
Thank you, Simon. Totally off the subject of zero carbon, but still quite, I think, an important question. How do you ensure that you get the time benefits from MMC construction?
You can go first. Yeah.
I mean, so I think that a good point is the standardisation. You know, we've got alongside CHIC is, you know, a standard set of house types that are all pre-designed. All of the details, you know, the bill of materials are all created, and for us to, you know, from start point to getting into the factory, you know, we can get that, you know, between 4 and 6 weeks from order. So that, you know, that really speeds the whole process up. And you know, being in a lit factory, we can work, you know, 2 shifts, we can work 24 hours, we can really reduce that program down significantly. So and also that standardization, you know, the guys are doing the same thing over and over and over, and it's making it's reducing those times down. All the materials are brought to the side of the line, they're brought to the stations, and it's a very quick, very easy process. And when people are doing things repetitively, it you know, it reduces times down significantly.
Simon, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, it's an easy one to answer. To get the time benefits and the efficiency of off-site manufacture, the simple answer is invest the time, okay, to the right solution firstly. So engage us and Jack's business, engage us at stage 2, stage 3 RIBA workbook. If we're engaged at stage 4, you've already got something that's pre-established, pre-set up. And you're then making not a square peg fitting a round hole, but you're trying to match things up more so. Whereas if we're involved in stage 2, stage 3 RIBA workbook development, we can influence that design, not change it, just influence it to make it more efficient for an off-site manufactured project that has a longer lead-in time, but a much shorter and more efficient on-site delivery time, which is where the real cost is, because that's the sharp end of the business. So that's where costs can be eroded very quickly. But equally, it's where costs can be very positive if it's delivered against program. So invest the time up front. That's a completely different mindset to where construction in the UK has been, with main contractor, subcontractor mentality, that will, you know, keep people at arm's length, because that way they'll sharpen their pencil. No, don't do that. Bring us in early and get our benefits of working together to get the right solution, like I say, from a performance that's required to a structural solution that's required to an on-site construction delivery program that's required.
Sarah, can I just comment, because that comes back to this key behavioural change and process point that was in my last slide, effectively. The way we have always done it in the social housing world, which is find site, design, get consent, tender, and then start moving that down the supply chain, isn't going to work to optimize the benefits of MMC. It is find site and select partner being manufacturer and either turnkey and contractor, and work together to optimize the solution. The money clock starts really ticking when you hit site. So you want to be manufacturing whilst you're doing the site-based works all at the same time, and then you will get the time benefits. But we've just got to basically change the process we've always done. I've been in the sector a long time, and it's hard to change stuff you've always done, but that's what we need to do. And hopefully through Build Smart, we can lead the way.
I was going to note as well that if MMC is thought of in the first place, then you can always build traditionally. But the opposite way around is very tricky. You know, if it's been designed traditionally, it's very difficult for us MMC guys to come in and build it efficiently. But if it's designed with MMC in mind, then you've got the option for both.
That's a good point, Jack. I'm conscious of time. Are there any other questions? I don't see any more question and answers. Does anyone else have anything further to add? No? Well, I'd just like to thank everyone for attending. Just a reminder that all the slides seen today will be available on our website. Also, picking up on John's presentation, would like to say that the show house, the CHIC show house, is also available as a virtual tour on our website if people don't feel comfortable in visiting it or it's too far away for them to come to Kidderminster. Thank you very much, Jack and Simon. Both,
Thank you.
Welcome.
Both presentations were very interesting and very informative. I always, although I've seen both your presentations before, there's always something that I think, oh, I didn't realise that. Just to remind you, we've got another webinar on the 15th of March, if people are interested. Finally, oh, sorry, thanks to John as well. Sorry, John. And if you need any further information, then please just contact me and I'll help where I can.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much.